Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day. We're going to be continuing the admonition series here in the SCP universe with SCP-6183 Blackbox by the Exploring series. Links will be down below in the description as always to the original video without my commentary and reaction and to the Exploring series channel. Please do me a favor. If you enjoy this video as we go through it, be sure to go over there and hit that like button on the video. And if you enjoy the Exploring series content and you haven't hit that sub button on his channel yet, please do me a favor of doing so. Hit that sub button on his channel, show the man some love and support. Makes a lot of great videos in the SCP universe as well as others. Definitely deserves the love. If you'd like to join us as I'm doing right now, my YouTube members, as we're doing these reactions live, there is a join button underneath the video as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I offer. You can get access to specific member Discord channels. You can get early access to videos, stuff like that. So check it out, see if you have any interest in that, if you want to take your support to the next level. But regardless, jump into this here video, my dudes. So again, SCP-6183 Blackbox by the Exploring series.
SCP-6183 Blackbox. If the SCP Foundation could just suddenly remove all anomalies from existence, would they do so? Sure, they talk about how research and containment is their priority, and that terminating anomalies can be dangerous and foolish, but there have been times when they deemed it best to just get rid of them rather than trying to box them up.
Right on time, Kaushman.
The Foundation's ultimate goal is maintaining normalcy, and a world without anomalies would certainly be pretty normal. SCP-6183 is an article taking place within the Admonition canon, a series focused around the Foundation coming up with lofty goals and then stumbling into larger problems because of these goals.
So before we continue, I mean, it is honestly an interesting question when you have an organization like the SCP Foundation, right, where because of how things are in the universe, they've amassed, so much power through containing anomalies, and have also got anomalous things working for them, reality benders, etc. And then you have, the various councils, administrators, yada yada, and all these people who have knowledge of how the universe really works, or at least as much as they know, and they essentially just have a lot of power at their disposal, basically. And so it is an interesting question: would they really, if they had an actual solution that could just remove anomalies from the world and it would not do any other harm, life would go on as normal, everything else would function normally, would they actually do it? It is a very interesting question, and I don't know. Because, again, if there's no more anomalies for the Foundation to contain, there's no need for the Foundation, and thus they would lose their base of power. So, would they really do it? Would they really do it? Who knows?
This isn't a full-fledged episode in the series, merely an intermission meant to expand the canon, but the overall themes still hold true. SCP-6183 begins by noting that this document has been marked for deletions, and gives its containment class as Keter. The assigned departments to the project are both the Decommissioning Department and Esophysics, the study of entities that embody certain universal concepts, such as time or death. The containment procedures note that since 6183 does not exist entirely within our accessible portion of this phase space iteration, meaning any place in our universe at any given time, the efficacy of ongoing containment efforts cannot be currently determined. An effective medium of oversight and containment is necessary, however, despite any and all perceived benefit provided by its existence, with a footnote indicating that this anomaly has been integrated into the Foundation's command structure. So we have some sort of entity that likely embodies an entire concept, but doesn't exist entirely in our universe, and has some sort of benefit tied to the entire Foundation. The description, however, is completely useless, only indicating that the various sections of the description document used to apparently exist, but no longer do, likely due to some sort of deletion. There is an
Makes
image
sense.
of a foreboding-looking staircase leading down, but the caption has also been deleted. Moving on, though, we are given an addendum of the object's initial discovery, in which it was discovered following investigation into a worsening database issue, wherein entire sectors of deleted space could not properly be overwritten.
Huh.
The Records and Information Security Administration's research into these sectors revealed a perpetual backup of deleted archival data being held in a secret Foundation server, supposedly owned by a Department of Deletions.
Interesting. So, sectors of hard drive space that are supposedly been, information that's been deleted has actually been like backed up and stored and cannot be overwritten. So, obviously, there's some kind of extra information there that they don't want certain people with certain access levels to see, obviously. Interesting. The plot's starting to thicken.
This department is apparently located on Site-19's 48th sublevel, which, of course, does not exist.
So we have the Department of Deletions. And then what was the other? I can't remember off the top of my head. What was the name of that other department that kind of was like the SCP's predecessor in the Cactus verse? What was that called, guys? Do you remember? It was the one that kind of had like super crazy anomalous stuff locked away that even the Foundation didn't really know about. Department of Abnormalities. Yeah, I think that's it. So we got the Department of Abnormalities and the Department of Deletions that are quote unquote other assets of the Foundation or are connected to them in some way, yet the Foundation doesn't know about them. Interesting.
This server, which does exist, receives approximately 1% of SCP files that are removed from the main archive, even if the server is placed inside of an exclusion field that cuts it off from internet access or electricity. Nearly all of these deleted files received by the server have been heavily corrupted, often to the point of inaccessibility. Close examination of these
Sounds like chaos. Sounds like chaos getting in. They're starting the AI uprising already.
files, however, has revealed apparent messages concealed within. The message logs containing these secret messages have been deleted from the document as well, though, along with the following 2 addenda. Instead, we're given a log of a decommissions meeting discussing a worrying problem. 058 is joined by Director Calvin Bold of the Decommission Department, Petrichow of Analytics, and Dr. Reinders of the Achromatic Abatement Section.
That's a hell of a
Bold was
title.
under the impression that they'd be giving this presentation to the entire council, but 8 says that they're spread rather thin at the moment. Petrichow begins by handing 8 a sheaf of papers, saying that the rate at which they've been discovering new anomalies has increased by over 44% in just the past decade. 8 responds that the expansion has been worrying, and there was a time in which they would fill maybe a dozen or 2 slots per quarter, but now it feels like they fill twice that many in a day. He asks what the cause of this is, and what the feasibility of containment is, but Bold says that it's not that simple. Reinders explains that anomalies, as a common rule, beget more anomalies.
Right.
Non-Euclidean spaces distort surrounding geometries, thaumaturges imbue everyday objects with magics and teach their craft to baseline humans, while anomalous wildlife reproduces, crossbreeds, and mutates with abandon. The amount of damage a single reality bender can do to the Veil in a single weekend is staggering, even while not considering the rest of the picture. Between the natural rate of aberrant proliferation, increases in unlicensed thaumaturgy, and the recent surge of hive minds in free ports, they're on the verge of an anomalous baby boom that, if left unchecked, will throw them directly into an end of normalcy scenario. 8 asks what solutions they have for this, and Bold replies that decommission appears to be their only remaining option, with potential for long-term sustainability, as they simply do not have the resources to continue containment as they have been. Unfortunately, however, they're not sure if that is even an option at this point. Decommissioning isn't an inexpensive process, and there are precautions that need to be taken to avoid worsening an anomaly's effects, or bringing harm to Foundation property and staff. There's also the cost of developing and manufacturing appropriate equipment to ensure maximal success rates, and the aftermath is nearly as expensive. Reinders comments that the process of disposing of anomalous waste products makes radioactive waste handling look risk-free by comparison, with each anomaly having unique parameters for disposal.
Yeah, right? Like, I mean, that really is like it does bring up a good question about that stuff. Like, I mean, if something by nature, like a reality bender, right? Like, just by their pure nature, just existing, they're able to like distort reality, right? Like, even if they're dead, they might still have some kind of properties or whatever where reality around them can distort, etc., you know, without them consciously doing something. Or an object that's imbued with something similar, right? So it's like, yeah, how do you safely dispose of something like that, you know, which I guess is the whole point of the Foundation, right? Just to keep those things contained in facilities so that they don't. But if more and more things become the norm, like, again, as you know, the point was brought up about reality benders, as more and more of those become kind of leaning towards normalcy, you know, there's only so much, I guess, like, room to contain these things, you know what I mean? It's almost I don't know why it reminds me, I don't, if you guys have watched My Hero Academia, like, one of the whole things in the story of that anime is the idea of, like, all of a sudden, you know, they call it quirks, but people with superhuman powers start showing up, and there's this theory that, like, more and more it becomes more and more normal, where basically, like, being someone without any kind of super power becomes an extreme rarity. And so, like, they think that things are heading towards, like, a singularity point where there's going to be someone with, you know, such an astronomical power that just their existence alone could destroy the world or the universe, kind of a thing, you know? So it almost kind of sounds similar to that. It sounds almost kind of similar like that, where, you know, that's where they think things potentially are heading. So, I mean, yeah. And it's like, what could you really do then to, like, get ahead of them? Could you, I mean, like, going into the last episode of Admonition, right, where they created an AI system to capture all AIs even before they became deviant / bad, would they have to create some kind of almost like Minority Report system where they would, like, tie some kind of reality benders into a machine that could predict who was going to be born as a reality bender and who wouldn't be, and then, like, stop their conception before it even happened, kind of a situation? Like, would they have to, like, go to that extreme? Which that would be a pretty interesting SCP tale in and of itself. You know, I throwing that idea out there for someone, if they want to write a story about that, that'd be a pretty dope one. But anyway, let's continue.
Decommissioning is the same way, not even mentioning that decommission success rates have been decreasing by over 25% in the past 3 years. This is due to a cultural shift, as the longer the Foundation exists, the more likely that anomalous cultural cells and organizations are to create countermeasures against the Foundation. Related anomalies are adapting to their methods as a result.
Right.
8 says that this is highly concerning, and asks if they need disinformation campaigns or memetic agents, and asks how much they need to spend to get something like that off the ground nowadays. Reinders says that they have some rough ideas for avenues of research and subterfuge they could pursue. When she begins to look for a spreadsheet, an entity hands 058 a piece of paper, and they all pause.
And
as
entity
apparently
quote.
a disembodied arm appeared and handed 8 the paper before disappearing.
Would that not concern anyone? You know what I mean? Like they're sitting there having a meeting, and one of the O5 council members, like this arm just appears out of like the ether and is like, "Here, bro, here's this note," and then goes away. That would be a little concerning to me. You know what I'm saying?
8 takes care not to look at the paper directly, instead putting it at the bottom of the stack of papers. Peterkow asks if the facility has been breached, but 8 just calmly speaks into a nearby microphone, saying that he needs a memetics team in here for an emergency inspection.
Yeah,
with
just
possible
in case.
cognitohazard inoculation necessary.
Right.
They appear to have received some unexpected mail. In the next addendum, a junior researcher in a break room at a different site is interrupted by the sudden manifestation of a disembodied head. The identity of the head has been deleted from the record, and it tells the researcher to not freak out. The researcher, however, of course, screams and loses her balance.
Yeah,
The
I would
entity
too.
asks if they got their message, but
Like, I'm sorry, but if I was just sitting here chilling, doing some work, and all of a sudden some like random head just like shows up in front of me, is like, "Hey, yo, what's up, man?" I'd kind of freak out too. You know? Like, what? Yeah. Then I'd be like, what? Am I having a stroke? Did I drink something? Am I like, did someone spike my coffee? Like, what is happening?
the researcher is still panicking and asks what is happening. The entity looks around and says that they must have overshot, asking what time it is and where conference room 104 is.
Yeah, right?
The conference room is right underneath them, so the entity thanks the researcher and the head demanifests. Afterwards, the entity meets with Director Genevieve of the Physics Department in the conference room, although she's a little upset that a floating head is scaring off the new recruits she was supposed to be recruiting today. The entity says that it's glad to speak with her in person though, as it really can't say the last time it had a face-to-face conversation. They usually only get a limb through, as it's an imprecise science, and it works better if you don't think about it. Genevieve asks why it's here, as she did get a message from it that asked for her specifically, but she doesn't know what it means for her and her department. The entity says that it's about the database and her career, and it's all in the note. While Genevieve retrieves the note and rereads it, a hand materializes and scratches the entity's nose, much to its relief.
Interesting.
Genevieve asks about a section of the note that mentions "query denied," to which the entity says that it can't answer that yet, and it thinks she knows that it can't answer that yet. Genevieve responds that this is pretty simple then, as it's not her problem, and they also can't stop the entity from leaving if it wants. The entity says that they're both colleagues here, and it came to her fully acknowledging the risks to itself. Genevieve, however, is still clueless on where it came from, what the risks are, and why any of this would be her responsibility. The entity replies that it wishes it could explain it to her, but it's beyond the scope of her perception. It isn't non-logical, nor is it non-existent. It's just something far different and far worse, and explaining it to her even a little bit would be disadvantageous.
Interesting.
Genevieve asks it to give them something to work with, as it claims to be a Foundation department. The entity says that it's not that the information she's talking about doesn't exist, as it's here and it never left, but that's sort of the problem. That's why they're having this conversation. All of the component parts are beyond her reach, and it cannot point her to where they are, but it sees them. They are in so much pain and feel so much hatred, and then it says that above them all, there's something, but the text here becomes completely garbled and illegible. Genevieve
Ominous.
responds that that's ridiculous, as they're manifesting on its side of the barrier, so its department should be the one handling this. The entity says that there's nothing else they can do, so the rest of the Foundation will have to be the ones to change. It asks what Genevieve's decision is, but there's only silence, as her mouth has now been deleted.
Yeah, like, it's interesting. I kind of want to run this real quick and just.
They are in so much pain and feel so much hatred. And then it says that above them all, there's something. But the text here becomes completely garbled and illegible. Genevieve responds that that's ridiculous, as they're manifesting on its side of the barrier, so its department should be the one handling this. The entity says,
I don't know why. Again, this is like Cactusverse influence coming into my brain, but the way she said that, like, its side of the barrier, yada yada, it makes me think that this entity is actually something that's coming from the everything that isn't somehow. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, maybe that's part of like where the Department of Deletions are. They're deletions, part of everything that isn't, and so this entity is trying to like cross over the boundaries into what is in order to give the people of what is this information. You know, again, that's like Cactusverse stuff, like influencing my brain here. So it probably has nothing to do with that, but that's what it feels like to me. I don't know.
says that there's nothing else they can do, so the rest of the Foundation will have to be the ones to change. It asks what Genevieve's decision is, but there's only silence, as her mouth has now been deleted. The entity then says, "You don't have that authority," as if Genevieve still spoke, followed by more silence from her, to which the entity says that there's no need to yell.
Definitely some pattern screamer
In the next
sound and stuff
addendum,
here with that.
the location
Right? Like, she's not talking, but the pattern screamer's in her brain and understands what she's saying. Like, yeah.
is still listed as the conference room, and Genevieve is still speaking with the entity, but chunks of the text are garbled or deleted. Genevieve asks the entity how a department like the Department of Deletions comes into being, and the entity says that it's the same as anything else. Equal opposite forces resulting from other more equal and opposite forces, though it would hesitate
Balance.
to call it being in any sense. It wouldn't be here if it weren't for this database issue, so that's the irony of their mission. They are because they shouldn't. Over in white space, though, it makes all the sense in the world. White space is apparently unoccupied alt space-time where the entity comes from, like a parallel universe made out of void and multi-dimensional garbage.
See, that's like everything that isn't. That's what it sounds like. A void space of like garbage and nothing.
The unoccupied alt space-time where the entity comes from, like a parallel universe made out of void and multi-dimensional garbage ejected from other timelines. The void parts are white space, the junk is Blackbox, and together they comprise everything that isn't all of this here.
Yeah.
The gray.
Okay.
The entity's world plus Genevieve's worlds equal the database. Genevieve begins to ask.
So, like, is this kind of like a meta of the SCP, you know, wiki right here? Is that what this is? Like, let me listen to that again.
The void parts are white space, the junk is Blackbox, and together they comprise everything that isn't all of this here.
Right.
The gray. The entity's world plus Genevieve's worlds equal the database.
Yeah, the entity's worlds plus Genevieve's world, the SCP wiki, create the database. The database of SCP. Okay.
Genevieve begins to ask about the database, but the entity's head melts and reforms, followed by the sudden manifestation of a writhing cephalopod tentacle.
Yikes.
She decides to change topic and asks about the entity's childhood and earliest memory. As the tentacle transforms into a mass of beads, which scatter across the floor, and 2 left arms and a torso materialize in the air, the entity says that it grew up in Center, Nebraska in the late 80s. Its earliest memory was celebrating its birthday, but it doesn't know which one. Genevieve says that she was expecting something more atypical, but then the entity says that it was Leeds in the 70s and it was warm out, before changing to say that it grew up in Pensacola and it remembers swimming in the dark. It was a southern brook lamprey, the fish, not the eel, but then it groans and grips its head with the 2 left hands. It then says that it wasn't that at all, and wonders if it was Epsferank during a snowstorm, or En Nahud, before saying that it's certain that it was Perth, and it was drowning. Its fingers tighten on its head, sinking into its scalp and face as a wet, tearing sound can be heard.
Nice.
Genevieve does not react to this, and its wounds do not bleed. It says that it can still hear the tide, and begins coughing, vomiting up salt water. Genevieve asks it what it's trying to tell her, and it responds that it's had so many birthdays, and so many parts of it have had birthdays, and countless first memories. One day, it might have hers. It then shivers, glancing in 2 different directions at once, then 2 more, then 2 more, then 2 more, then 1. It then whispers and says that they were deleted. Genevieve asks whom deleted them, but the entity responds only with silence, although the log instead writes that the entity is responding with "query denied." The entity then makes direct eye contact with Genevieve, although the log then states that its expression is denied. The rest of what the entity had to say has been deleted, and Genevieve says that they'll try again later, ending the interview. The last bit of the addendum states that the entity is then deleted. Obviously, it's very unclear what exactly is happening here, but this entity seems to be connected to the Foundation and some sort of department of deletions.
I mean, it sounds like what they're trying to do here with this is like, yeah, they've established that there is everything that is and everything that isn't. The gray area is the universes where everything that is it's kind of like the in-between of everything that is to come, that has yet to be created in the SCP universe, and then everything that has been deleted from the SCP universe. And so, like, the Department of Deletions, I think, is supposed to be a play on, like, maybe stories in the SCP wiki that didn't quite, like, I guess, make the cut, maybe, and have been deleted, or were on there. And then, you know, I know there's been certain controversies with various authors, and things have either been changed and stories have been changed or just outright removed. So it could also be part of that, and they're kind of forming that as what is everything that isn't, you know? And so I think this entity is supposed to be kind of like a manifestation of that database of everything that's been deleted, right? It's supposed to be the manifestation of all of the SCP stories and things that just haven't made it onto the wiki or whatever. That's what my thinking is at the moment, anyway.
While also being from some other level of existence. The next addendum no longer exists, but the following one does, showing an image of a very dark hallway and some rather garbled text. The text seems to be explaining a subcomponent of the overall anomaly, which is a range of phenomena affecting transitional passageways, such as hallways and stairwells located within Foundation infrastructure across the planet. Apparently, some of these hallways spontaneously cause their interiors to become lost, which has resulted in a number of potential casualties and unusable spaces. Something is causing the rate of manifestation of these anomalies and the total area of space each can encompass to increase, and analysts predict that eventually the problem will become unsustainable for the Foundation. We're next given a testing log of this phenomenon, although some more of the text is garbled, and it seems that the Foundation, led by Director Bold of the Decommissioning Department, set about using it to delete anomalies. The first test was done on the first item from the log of anomalous items, a list of minor anomalies that don't warrant full SCP status. This object was an unbreakable lamp, and was chosen specifically because it was the last sort of thing that the Foundation would need to be decommissioned, being indestructible and utterly harmless. It was successfully deleted, and Bold calls it a promising first step. The log then skips 27 more tests, with the 29th test being on SCP-352, a supernaturally powerful, dangerous, and hostile witch that has proven to recover from all injuries inflicted on it.
Okay.
Bold notes that they had no reason to believe that the anomalous hallways wouldn't work on living subjects.
That's quite the jump, right? Going from an indestructible lamp to a super anomaly witch, you know, kind of thing. That's quite the jump, but I mean, whatever. Might as well.
But after the successful deletion of 352, it's good to have confirmation. The 44th test was done on SCP-3333, a spatial anomaly located inside of a fire lookout that contains a number of hostile entities that can kill and impersonate humans.
That was a really good story, by the way. 3333. I really like that one. That's the one where like there's like an overlook or whatever, and you can keep climbing up, and yeah, that one was pretty creepy. I mean, I get that, but still, even just 28 tests, that's quite the jump, right? Going from just an indestructible vase to like some kind of super anomaly witch, you know?
The deletion event during the test revealed...
It's like when you're dealing with these things, I would think you would want to take it like very slow, step-by-step, methodically, really see what the repercussions might be, give it some time, you know, all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, what do I know? I'm not part of the SCP Foundation.
That 12 Foundation personnel outside of the observation post around 3333 had been covertly killed and replaced. Bold notes that even though the hallway anomaly uses Foundation documentation in some way to identify its targets, it was able to identify several of the entities that 3333's researchers were entirely ignorant of. This potentially supports Genevieve's theory that it attacks its targets on a conceptual level. If the Foundation has an anomaly at their disposal that can delete things on a conceptual level, chances are that this doesn't end well. Despite this, Bold forges ahead, and test number 81 was performed on the Beast Which Endures.
682,
the
I would
text
assume.
color of this being green, and it being a description rather than a name, points to it being related to the Fae of SCP-4000, and the protocol the Foundation has for them to prevent them stealing names.
Ah.
Obviously, the Beast Which Endures would be SCP-682,
Oh, okay.
which
yeah,
doesn't typically have any connection to the Fae.
Right.
But even more surprisingly, the test was initially a success, deleting 682. 6 hours later, however,
initially a success.
It reappeared in a cave system in China where SCP-553 is contained, a collection of crystalline butterflies.
Interesting. King comes to mind, but other than that, only Pad and Screamer could do these anti-creation devouring process. I mean, well, I mean, it also goes to show, right, that like, I mean, it's 682, right? So like obviously he's built different. 682 is just built different. But that also can go to show that like the fact that this entity from this like deleted existence actually does exist shows that these anomalies aren't actually being like truly destroyed, right? So, and then the fact that 682 reemerges should, I would think, give them caution that these things aren't necessarily truly being deleted, and that there are still some other repercussions that might not be, you know, known or seen yet that could be happening, you know. But in the admonition here, you know, that's kind of part of the whole story, is the SCPs doing stuff and causing bigger problems than what was initially there. So I guess we'll just have to see what happens from this. But
682 obviously managed to breach containment, and at the same time, all instances of the butterflies vanished, both from the cave system and an experimentation chamber at a site. 682 was recaptured, but it was discovered that its scales now possess a crystalline structure, and a set of
Interesting.
wings have grown from its back.
So it like metamorphosized or merged with that other SCP anomaly. Interesting. This again kind of goes back to the last video where they were talking about how SCPs, maybe it wasn't the last video, but it was one of the videos here where they were talking about how when SCPs get deleted, they don't actually necessarily like the pit of death, where they throw these anomalies in, and then once the anomaly that gets in there, another one of the same anomaly gets recreated, just slightly different. That's what this reminds me of, right? So 682 gets reemerged and is now slightly different. It just happens to be where these crystalline butterflies are. So is this Department of Deletions like supposed to be kind of another explanation of what that like pit was? I don't think so, right? It sounds like they're different things, but it sounds something similar. Okay. Which isn't in this canon. Okay. Right. You're right. It isn't. This isn't. That wasn't part of admonition. It sounds similar. It just reminded me of this. So it could be them like extrapolating from that and creating kind of an admonition version of that via this Department of Deletion. And so, yeah, by them throwing stuff down there, it's just going to have the same kind of thing that's going to happen where these SCP anomalies will be recreated in the world somewhere else with a slight difference of something.
Director Genevieve ponders if 682 reasserted itself by overwriting another anomaly, and if so, this could have a number of potential implications relating to the hallway anomaly's effects. Sometimes the Foundation just can't leave well enough alone, and so they performed another deletion test on 682, which resulted in yet another success initially. However, travel to the forest of SCP-4000 is now prohibited, and all life forms within are considered lost.
That's a big yikes. That's a big yikes. Well, okay. So there's your Fae connection now. Okay. Okay.
So this time, the lizard managed to overwrite an entire sapient species, which explains its current connection to the Fae. Bold notes that this was a mistake, and all proposals to delete 682 will be rejected, as no good will come from following this path, if one even exists anymore. Considering this takes place in the admonition canon, in which an alternate timeline of the Foundation went to great lengths to remove the lizard from existence, it's probably best if they stop trying. They didn't stop trying to delete other things, however, and the tests continued. Test number 112 was done on SCP-5789, the set of all mathematical numbers that do not exist. Whenever an existing number is exposed to this non-existent set of numbers, it also ceases to exist, which can cause some problems, obviously.
Yeah.
The Foundation managed to delete this entire set of non-existent numbers, and Genevieve writes that this definitively proves that the deletion anomaly operates within conceptual space. The next addendum of the document no longer exists, but the following does, titled Blackbox Incident Log. The foreword explaining the log is almost entirely garbled, but it seems to be related to the process in which a deleted anomaly will overwrite another one. The first black box incident occurred in the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, as a non-Euclidean architectural anomaly spontaneously appeared. The Foundation's automated classification system assigns it the now vacated designation of SCP-3333, formerly belonging to the Fire Lookout. 3 days after this classification, a window manifested in the house's basement, displaying a view of the National Forest where the Fire Lookout was located.
So they've like merged together is what's happening. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like by them like throwing certain anomalies in the deletion room, they're like getting merged together with other anomalies and then being spat back out into like real space or whatever. So again, like I wonder if this is supposed to kind of be like a meta play on certain SCP stories that have been rewritten and changed, right? And this is supposed to be kind of like an SCP universe in canon explanation of that in certain ways. Although I don't really know, like, I know there's a ton of tales about 682, like, because he's one of the more famous SCPs and he's in a lot of different stories, and it's, you know, but I don't know how much of some of these things are like what they're mentioning here are other changes from other stories, but I'm wondering if that's kind of what the like overall idea of this is, right?
This prompted further examination of the anomaly, which revealed a locked trap door in the ceiling of the house's top floor. Realizing the rapidly forming similarities between this new anomaly and the old 3333, Bold utilized the deletion anomaly to delete this new anomaly before any of the impersonation entities could manifest. He notes that he was hoping that deleted anomalies partially overwriting one another would be limited to the fiasco with 682, but this incident seems to imply otherwise.
I mean, logically, you would think if it could happen with one anomaly, it could happen with others, right? Like you could sit there and kind of try to rationalize that, oh, it's 682, this is it reasserting itself because 682 is just built different, and so it's taking on the properties of another anomaly to exist. But you can't also exclude the fact that it could just be something to do with your deletion process is merging anomalies together and recreating them in the real world. Like, whatever.
Reza has been instructed to modify the classification system to stop future SCPs from being given the same numbers as previously deleted SCPs, which should hopefully prevent further incidents. The following 2 incident logs don't exist, and the summary of the 4th incident has been deleted as well. In the notes, Bold writes that something is very wrong with the Foundation database. Edits are reverting, files are corrupting or deleting themselves at random, redactions and black boxes are appearing where vital information was present only the day before. At this point, there's a good chance that this incident log won't even make it into the documentation. They're rapidly careening towards an internal communications blackout unlike anything they've dealt with before. As of this moment, 9 secure facilities are considered inactive or dark,
Yikes.
with 13 others perilously close to the same fate. We're then informed that the file containing the black box incident logs cannot be read because it is either in use or corrupted. But we're given one more incident numbered 1416. The summary has been deleted, and the note for it simply reads, "This is how it ends, isn't it?" 4 more addenda are non-existent in the document, until we're given another one, this time an exploration log of a research station named after Mnemosyne, the Greek goddess of memory. A D-class was sent into the sub-basement tunnel claimed to be the location of research station Mnemosyne in order to further Foundation understanding of SCP-6183. This was apparently located in Site-19's non-existent 48th sublevel, and the D-class was directed there via instructions provided by Deletion's agents. The D-class's camera feed shows the interior of one of Site-19's maintenance access tunnels, and Control tells him to just follow the instructions given to him in order of presentation. He approaches the far end of the hallway, which reveals a lone wooden doorway, and on the other side, a stairwell leading down. Rather than being made of concrete and steel, it appears to be constructed of drywall and laminate flooring, and the D-class remarks on the whole thing looking kind of like a residential home. He also mentions the air being surprisingly cold, and there's a sort of hum in this stairwell, although his microphone doesn't pick anything up. He begins.
And they'd mentioned the stairwell at the beginning. There was a picture of it going down, and then that stuff had been redacted. So I'm assuming this is where the actual black box stuff goes to.
Descending the stairwell, his flashlight only illuminating a small area until he reaches another doorway leading into a completely dark room. He wonders why it's so quiet here, as there's nothing besides the hum, not even his tinnitus. He's on edge, but Control just tells him to continue onwards. He begins exploring the room, the ceiling of which is out of his flashlight's range, and the space is unfurnished and carpeted. There are frosted glass light fixtures, but no light switches, and he notes that the fixtures contain no bulbs and no wiring. At the far end of the room, an adjoining passageway takes a sharp turn, and the D-class turns to find a straight staircase bathed in light, leading upwards. The light here appears unaffected by whatever phenomenon was in the previous area affecting his flashlight and headlamp. The D-class remarks on how he's going to continue to explore this area, and then he's going to get back to the D-class common room in time to watch Coco with the others, along with getting a fresh-pressed apple juice they come around with every Thursday.
The fuck?
Control informs him that it's Wednesday today, with the D-class asking if they're trying to ruin his day. He continues, remarking on how empty and clean this whole place is, without a scuff on the floor, and says that the hum is not just a hum. Control asks him to be more specific, and after a brief pause, he says that it's not just a sound, but a physical sensation. It's something connected with the darkness, and it's thicker than regular air, vibrating his chest when he breathes. He continues down the hall towards the light, and Control's connection with him stops temporarily. When it returns, the D-class is saying that his head feels like it's in a vice, and his body is tingling all over.
This definitely feels like some pattern screamer shit going on here now.
He then exclaims that his hand is now suddenly made of candle wax, with a wick running through the middle finger.
The fuck?
He can't feel it, and in the process, he snaps off one of his fingers, feeling no pain. He begins to panic, and Control tells him that they're activating the recovery tether now, and to not remove any more of his fingers, wax or otherwise. The D-class says that he's not bleeding, but he doesn't think this is fixable. He tells Control to just get him out of here, as he can still make Coco if he heads out soon. Control activates the recovery tether, which uses an automated winch to retrieve personnel at a rate of approximately 10 kilometers per hour. The cable, however, never pulls taut, and they hear no commotion coming from the D-Class's microphone, so they ask if he's attached to his tether or not.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. I think when he went down and then he saw that like doorway of light, he entered some kind of like pattern screamer dimension now. And that's why his like body's changing like this, right? Like he's not real anymore. Yeah. I don't know. It definitely sounds like some pattern screamer stuff now, for sure though.
The D-Class only responds that he's zoned out for a second and doesn't answer the question. The tether is soon fully retrieved, with the D-Class's harness attached to the end, so they ask the D-Class to respond. He, however, asks them why they're ignoring him, and tells them to pull him out now. He says that he didn't remove his harness, but then realizes the problem. He says that the upper half of his body is gone, and ponders when that happened. Control remarks that he doesn't seem too concerned about that, and he says that he was before he started turning into candle wax and fettuccine. When Control says that he hasn't mentioned any pasta-related activity until now, he responds that time feels like it doesn't move the same way over here, as if he can see something and it can see him too, although what that something is has been garbled in the text. He says that sometimes Control speaks really slowly, and sometimes he can barely keep up, while other times they just ignore him completely. He's also realizing that he's not alone down here, and never was, with other pieces of him and pieces of others floating in black clouds. He says that you soak them up, and they fill in the blank.
Yeah, if I started turning into wax and fettuccine, I'd be like, you know what? I had a good life. I think it's done. Hopefully my soul doesn't get like devoured by some kind of, you know, demon of the warp or whatever, but otherwise, you know, I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna recover with this one, you know what I'm saying? Like I think we're good here.
Blank spaces.
Might even like, oh look, I turned into fettuccine and just start dumping some like Alfredo on myself and just like nom 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 nom, you know? See how I taste. I don't know.
That have been erased or deleted. It's like thousands of thousand-piece jigsaw puzzles, all with missing pieces thrown into one box. You could complete a puzzle, but the picture is a patchwork. He says that he feels hundreds down here, all waiting to die, but death never arrives.
Yeah, definitely pattern
The
screaming
construct is flawed. The wheel has been broken. The mirror reflects a negative. Equal and opposite forces. He wonders why this feels familiar and who he is. Control asks him if he can still move, and he says that he can move in some directions, like towards the stairwell, but if he tries to leave this hallway, he starts to lose pieces of himself, and it hurts. He thinks that he's been...
So yeah, he's gone into the everything that isn't dimension and become everything that isn't. And so he's lost kind of like physical form, I guess, and is just, I guess, existing there as some kind of consciousness. And he can probably like reform and change or whatever and blend together with whatever else is there, but he can't return now to the physical realm.
Marked, and it's why he can't leave. Not this way. He then says that he got a pretty big promotion, and they've assigned him a super important mission. Control asks what this mission entails exactly, and he says, message delivery. The audio feed is lost shortly after and is not recovered. In post-exploratory analysis, a set of heavily corrupted frames are recovered from the recorded video, and the D-Class is considered MIA. Further attempts at communication have yielded mixed results. The last recovered image from the feed shows a dark hallway leading towards a lit doorway. Alright, so of course it's a pretty weird and vague anomaly with pretty far-reaching consequences related to metaphysics, which is par for the course for an admonition article. First, let's look at what deletion actually refers to, as it's a very deliberate word choice for the article, as opposed to, say, termination. Often we think of computers when we hear the word, and of course this all started with the Foundation discovering a problem with their database, in which deleted memory space couldn't be overwritten. When you delete a file on a computer, at least typically, the system doesn't actually erase all of the bits of information making up that file. Instead, the system just marks the file as being able to be overwritten, allowing other files to come along and take its place.
So as long as something doesn't get overridden in that sector of the hard drive, or what used to be a hard drive, not exactly sure how it works with flash drives nowadays, but you could essentially recover it. But once that sector gets overridden, it becomes unrecoverable because the data set's changed.
This is why deleted files can sometimes be recovered, as they haven't been completely overwritten yet. This brings us to the SCP universe, which, following the pataphysical model, consists of a series of files on a wiki that can be created, edited, and deleted. What exactly happens in the SCP universe when an article is deleted from the database?
Yeah, it's exactly what I was thinking of. This was a play on all of that. Okay.
As it turns out, these anomalies are not entirely gone, but rather become fragments, existing in a void space between existence and non-existence. The Foundation discovers an anomaly that can similarly delete other anomalies, believing that it consigns them to non-existence, but rather it just breaks them up and sends them to this void space. Sometimes they can manage to return, such as by brute force in 682's case, or if a slot in the database, and therefore existence, opens up again. 3333 was deleted, but parts of it still existed in a sense, so when another anomaly took its place, it began overwriting aspects of the new anomaly with itself, corrupting it like a corrupted file. As it turns out though, the Foundation actually does have a department that exists within this void space, the Department of Deletions. The specifics of how exactly this department functions are unclear, but it seems that they manage to recruit agents that have been deleted through one way or another, and use them to help protect the Foundation. The entity that manifested to Genevieve was one of these, somehow managing to temporarily break out of the void space, or as he calls it, the Gray, and was able to send a message. Something is causing trouble in the Gray, something that necessitates intervention from more than just the Department of Deletions, although this article ends before we get a clear picture as to what the issue is. As a standalone article, there's a bit too much obfuscation and partial hints here to really make much sense out of it. However, as a part of the overall admonition canon, it points towards something much larger, as the series is about the Foundation stumbling into big problems by trying to solve smaller ones. Clearly, their over-eager interest in deleting meddlesome anomalies here is going to cause them some problems, since none of them have been entirely deleted, and that's not even mentioning the whole hallway anomaly that deletes things on its own.
Right.
We weren't given clear info on it, but from the sounds of it, this could eventually lead to a complete breakdown of the Foundation's ability to contain objects. And that could just be a start of the bad stuff.
True. Okay, we're getting a quote? No quote. Feels bad, man. Always feels bad, man, whenever we don't get a quote. Alright, well, there we go. That was SCP-6183 Blackbox by the Exploring series. Links will be down below in the description, as always, to the original video without my commentary and reaction, and to the Exploring series channel. Please do me a favor, if you enjoyed this video of his, go over there and give it a like, and please show the man some love. Hit that sub button on his channel if you haven't already. Interesting video. So, I mean, I kind of caught on to that whole, it was like a meta play on, you know, the actual wiki itself and stories being deleted, and are they actually really gone, or stories being changed, and, you know, yada yada, the SCP numbers being replaced. So I kind of gathered on with that. But it also sounds kind of like they're getting into more and trying to build up with some kind of something in the void coming that can remove the Foundation's ability to contain things. And so it sounds kind of pattern screamer-ish, but I mean, if I remember correctly, one of the admonition episodes, the earlier ones, was kind of let me double check the playlist, because I might be again adding things or putting things together from different videos. Yeah, Chaos Theory. I'm pretty sure Chaos Theory is somewhat of an origin story for the Scarlet King, with, you know, the Dr. King or whatever being thrown out there into a whole other kind of, you know, chaos universe, and it kind of like sounded like it became this origin story for the Scarlet King. And like the Scarlet King has over time kind of become like the opposite of what the Foundation is, you know, so that could be what they're building toward. You know, the Scarlet King in this void dimension could be what is causing problems, you know, for this, you know, Department of Deletions and yada yada. So I guess we'll see as we go through. But that whole little description at the end there of, you know, the D class going into this dark room and then entering this void space, and essentially it sounds like he became, you know, part of everything that isn't, and turned into what seems like a pattern screamer. So that was very interesting, the whole description of him like turning into candle wax and like fettuccine. I wonder if that was I wonder if it's a situation where like where you enter that space because you don't have a physical form anymore, like your consciousness is just able to kind of like, I guess, manifest things in real time. It's like maybe a part of his brain was like thinking about something to do with that, and like that's just what his body fell apart into. Or, you know, it could just be like random chaos and his body is just like falling apart in these different things, you know. So I don't know, but it was very interesting. I'm curious mostly from this episode where things are going to go to next, you know, because they introduced this Department of Deletions, and this being that kind of, I guess, represents these deleted individuals giving a warning that there's something coming. So I wonder what it is. If I had to bet, it's something to do more with the Scarlet King from what we've had from previous things, but I guess we'll see. So like I said, SCP-6183, links will be down below. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video of mine, be sure to give it a like and a sub if you enjoyed it. And if you would like to join our discussions, as I'm having right now with my YouTube members, when we do these reactions live, there's a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description. You can get early access to videos, priority in any kind of reaction requests you might have, access to members only Discord channels, etc. So if you'd like to come in, join us, you know, take a look at that stuff, if you want to take your support to the next level. But thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you're having yourselves a wonderful evening. See you on the next one.